Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to have a look at a beer that I think will be really quite interesting. This one is a three-way collaboration and this is part of the sort of winter Christmas mini-series that I've been doing for you over the last few videos. So we've got another new brewery to introduce for you on the channel. I've never reviewed anything from these guys and I don't think I've actually really tasted anything released under this brand either. So for this review then we are going to go to Morgondagens and we're having a little look at their Glögg Sour, which is a Berliner Weisse coming in at 4.5% ABV, and it's got blueberries, blackberries and cherries added to it along with some Glögg spices and things like that. So for those of you that don't know, Glögg is basically a Swedish kind of mulled wine that we drink around Christmas time. You can drink some of them hot, you can drink some of them cool, and sometimes you add raisins and nuts and things into it as well. It's kind of a similar idea to the German Glühwein, which probably more of you have tried than Glögg, right enough. But this particular beer, as I say, it comes from Morgondagens, who are based in Gothenburg, and it's a collaboration with Friends Company Brewing, who are a sort of gypsy brewery from Helsingborg, and then Poppels Bryggeri, who are one of the bigger breweries in the Gothenburg area. So really curious to see how this one turns out. Morgondagens are quite an acclaimed brewery, but I've just never managed to get around to reviewing any of their stuff for you here on the channel. But now that I've got notes and things written, I will see if we can do some more of their beers over the next little while. But really curious to see how this beer turns out, and as always, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one. We'll see how we get on. So yeah, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Friends Company Brewing and from Poppels Bryggeri. I'll no doubt add more to those in the near future. There's also a link down there that will take you to my future reviews that I'll do from Morgondagens. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers, as I mentioned. There's all the usual social media down there too. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Morgondagens first off then, since these guys are the home brewery. So Morgondagens was founded by Jonas Gustafsson and Jenny Nilsson, and the pair lived together in Ingeru outside of Stockholm, and they brewed together at home before moving their operation over to the west coast in 2017. And they were then based in Hamburgsund, which is where they had the Morgondagens Ekologiska Ölkaffe. Basically, if you translate it into English, Morgondagens means tomorrow. So basically the tomorrow's organic beer cafe, if you translate the full thing into English. But this was where they brewed their beers, and it also acted as a tap room of sorts as well. But this building had been a pizzeria previously, and they set up a small brewery of 200 litres, and they became known for adding lots of different ingredients into their beers and experimenting with sours and things like this. So they opened up the beer cafe during the summer months, which was also known for pizzas and sandwiches, and it proved to be very popular. And they then got their beers into Systembolaget here in Sweden, as well as managing some exports up to Norway through Vinmonopolet, which is their state-owned alcohol stores. But they sold this premises in 2018, and they began brewing their beers at Poppels Bryggeri for a period of time, but they now have their own brewery in Hisingen in Gothenburg, where they have a 2,000 litre brew kit, and they'll start off with initially with a 30,000 litre fermentation capacity. This brewery is going to start operating sometime in early 2020, and they hope to have a kind of brewery bar on site at some point as well. Interestingly, with Morgondagens, they also have a collaboration brewery with Microphone Bryggeriet, who are now known as Duck Pond Brewing. This is called Wizard Brewing, the Grammoballophone and things like that. Those quite distinctive beers with that really distinctive artwork that you've seen floating around. Wizard Brewing is a collaboration between Duck Pond, Microphone Bryggeriet, however you want to term them now, and Morgondagens. Very popular beer, very good sour beers actually, Berliner Weisses and stuff like that. But as of November 2019, when I'm filming this review for you, Morgondagens have produced around 110 different types of beers. Most of them tend to be sours, but there are a few kind of straight up things in there as well. But a brewery that's been getting a hell of a lot of acclaim throughout Sweden over the last little while, so I definitely need to keep an eye on these guys and review a few more of their beers over the next little bit. But yeah, that was all I was really able to find out about Morgondagens for just now. It's a shame I haven't reviewed them before, because like I say, they have been quite acclaimed actually, but you know, there's 400 breweries in Sweden these days. Sometimes it takes you a little bit of time to get round to them, but now that I have the notes and things like that and I've made them, I will make sure that I review a few more of their beers over the next little while. It'll be cool to try some of their straight up things, some of their core range and stuff like that. But yeah, that's all you need to know about Morgondagens. As always, if you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and things like that to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And if you're interested in all the different beers that they've done, then you can check out the Rate Beer and Untappd pages. When they've done over 110 different types of beers and they've only really been around for about 2 and a bit years, I think that's pretty damn impressive actually, so definitely need to review more from these. Okay, on to the next brewery then, Friends Company Brewing. So as I mentioned to you earlier, Friends Company Brewing, these guys are a ghost gypsy brewery, however you want to term them, based in Helsingborg here in Skåne in the south of Sweden. So the company was founded in the summer of 2016 and it's run by 4 friends. This is Martin Karlsson, Philip Hansen, Björn Axelsson and Jakob Berings. So they produce around 20,000 litres of beer per year, and they started the company because they were home brewing enthusiasts and they just enjoyed drinking beer with their friends, and so that's what they decided to name the brewery Friends Company. So Philip is a car enthusiast and an entrepreneur. Jacob runs a home brewing store which is called Hembryggeriet.se. Martin has a background in electrical engineering and works for Volvo, while Björn comes from a background in IT. So they started the brewery as a part-time venture and they just want to see how far they can take it, and eventually they're hoping that one of them will be employed full-time by the company. So Jakob and Björn brew the beer while Martin and Philip deal with the business side of things basically, and the first beers that they produced were brewed at Spike Brewery up in Gothenburg, and the main IPA was brewed at Brygghuset Finn in Landskrona, just a little bit south of them still in Skåne. But as of November 2019, again when I'm filming this review for you, they've produced around 16 different types of beer, and the last beer review that you would have seen me review from these guys, the Double IPA, I'm sure it's called Sunshine Double IPA actually, that's probably the main beer that you're going to find from these guys, but they release different things every so often actually. There is a good little bit of recipe development and stuff going on at the moment, but definitely a brewery that you want to check out. I was quite impressed with the IPA that I reviewed from them before, so I will need to see if I can review one of their other beers at some point fairly soon as well. But another nice little brewery from Skåne here in the south of Sweden. We do have quite a few nice breweries around Skåne actually. It seems outside of Gothenburg, I think Skåne, Skåne and Stockholm as well has got a good few things, but I think outside of Gothenburg, Skåne maybe has about the most concentrated brewing activity actually, so there's a good few breweries down here that you might want to check out. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about Friends Company Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more, of course, again, check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with the latest goings on, and you can check out all the different beers that they've done on the Rate Beer and Untappd pages then. So yeah, on to our final brewery then, Poppels Bryggeri, and these guys probably have the kind of most the longest and most kind of illustrious history, if you like. So Poppels Bryggeri were originally based in a little town called Mölnlycke to the southeast of Gothenburg, but they're now based in Jonsered, which if I remember correctly is kind of up to the northeast. But the brewery is named after that which was owned by Johan Poppel, who was a well-known German-Swedish brewer who spent most of his life a little bit to the south in Vårberg, beautiful town by the way, and then later on in Gothenburg. But he was born between 1605 and 1610 in Lower Saxony, I believe that's Saxon-Anhalt in Germany, and then he moved to Sweden with his family in the 1620s. He met his wife Katarina Krakow between 1624 and 1628 and later founded Gothenburg's first brewery with her officially in 1649, although it is thought that they had been brewing since a good about 10 years earlier in 1638. So he's also said to have written down the protocol of the city of Gothenburg in Swedish for the first time as well, as opposed to German. But the brewery apparently remained in the Poppel family for a number of generations, and the most famous site of this brewery is in Gothenburg, is at Stigbergets Torget, and of course we do know Stigbergets Brewery, obviously named after the square of course. But the current brewery itself, the current incarnation of this company, it was founded back in 2012 in Mölnlycke on a site that was apparently owned by the Poppel family. But the brewery is owned by 15 beer lovers, and the idea is basically to focus on the pairing of beers with food. The current head brewer is Daniel Granat, and he's a bit of an experimenter and a perfectionist, so he brews most of his beers about 4 to 5 times on the pilot kit before he decides he's happy with the recipe. He reads a lot of blogs and things like that just to keep up to date with all the things that are going on in the beer world as well. And that's one of the things I would say, if you're interested in the Poppels beers, the ones that are always very, very interesting to try are the Project series, and quite a few of the Project beers have ended up as core range. The Russian Imperial Stout, I believe, was like Project number 1 or Project number 2. The Double IPA was also one of the Project beers, and there's another one recently that's become a core range beer as well. So yeah, try the Project beers from Poppels, and then, you know, the few, and as I say, some of the core range tend to evolve out of that Project series. But in 2015 they moved to their new site in Jonsered to the east of Gothenburg, and there's a restaurant there and shop, and like I say, hopefully I can get up there and check that out sometime. It'd be quite cool to film an out and about video up there, so I do need to check out, see about doing that in the future. But these guys also boast the title of being Sweden's largest organic beer producer too. So yeah, a really kind of nice brewery, this one of the bigger, pardon me, by volume breweries in Sweden these days, and probably one of the better known Swedish craft brewery names. They are starting to export their beers. I think some of you over in America might see some of the Poppels beers just now, but very solid. I would recommend either the Double IPA or the Russian Imperial Stout. The Russian Imperial Stout's a very good introduction to this brewery actually. So yeah, it's been a while since I've reviewed a Poppels beer actually. I'll need to have a little look on Systembolaget and see what they actually have from them and see if there's something a little bit different for me to try. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Poppels Bryggeri for just now. As I say, one of the better known and one of the larger names around in the Gothenburg craft beer scene these days. One of the older names actually in the Gothenburg beer scene too, even though it's still very young. But definitely worth checking out if you get the chance. But if you want to learn more about Poppels Bryggeri, check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer and Untappd pages to see all the different beers that these guys have done too. There's a good number of breweries actually brew. There's a good number of the gypsy breweries brew stuff at Poppels Bryggeri as well. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. That's you been taken through the history of all three of the breweries involved here. So I'll just let you have a little look at the can again before we open this one up. There you can see the elves with their God Jul sign there. Merry Christmas, of course, in Swedish, for those of you that don't know. And there you can see Glögg Sour on the bottom there. Like I say, Glögg is kind of like a Swedish mulled wine. Quite often it's eaten hot with raisins, and you sometimes put nuts in it as well. I just put the raisins in. I don't really like nuts that much. But there you can see, here are the brewery symbols on the side here. So there is Morgondagens, there is Friends and Company, and there is Poppels Bryggeri on the bottom as well. So yeah, like I said to you, this one is a 4.5% Berliner Weisse with blueberries, black currants, and cherries, and Glögg. So that's like Glögg, spices. Kreda is spicy actually. I learned that word the other day. But yeah, so it says this Glögg Sour is a sweet sour Berliner style sour that is fullpropad flavoured, I guess, like propped up, something like that, with blueberries, Svarte Vinbär, which I believe is black currants or blackberries, cherries, and Glögg spices. So Glögg Kreda. So yeah, should be really interesting, this one. So let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. I have to admit, out of all the winter beers, you know, I've had those stouts and I've had you know, barley wines and things like this. This was the one that I was really quite curious about actually, a Glögg Sour. If this turns out really well and it's only going to be a one-off brew, I think it'll be a bit of a shame, because this is a really properly kind of Swedish sour beer, if you like. This one I think has the potential to be very, very good. So yeah, as you would expect from a Berliner Weisse, you can sometimes get rather fabulous colours out of these things. So if we shine the light through this, this is definitely, it's really like a kind of sort of red winey colour, a burgundy I guess you could say, burgundy maroon, like Heart of Midlothian Football Club in Edinburgh. It's about the same colour as their football shirts actually, but you can see the head on this. It had that lovely kind of pinkish head, and that's just fading away to be a very, very thin foamy layer. There was at least a solid finger of that there when we brought it out. But if we shine the light through this, it is quite a hazy beer, and which is what you'd expect from a Berliner Weisse. Of course, a lot of the haze you get in New England IPAs comes from both the oats and from the wheat that's used in the beer. But yeah, one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones heading up towards the bottom of that, where the head was. But yeah, it looks kind of as you'd expect. A beer of this appearance is not out with the realms of possibility for a Berliner Weisse actually. So yeah, really cool one I have to say. So you can smell the spices and stuff off this straight away I have to say. You know, I don't even know how to describe Glögg spices. You know, if you get the chance to try some Swedish Glögg, then definitely do. I'll be taking some of it over to Japan for the family out there actually. They loved it when I took it over. But yeah, really, really nice looking Berliner Weisse, this one. You can see I'm surprised at how quickly the head has faded away on this one. It actually looks just properly like Glögg now. So yeah, nothing surprised about the appearance of this one. Let's take a closer look at the aroma and see how we get on. Jeez, that's a beautiful aroma. I mean, mulled wine, you know, if you know Glühwein from Germany, you know, mulled wine that you get at the Christmas market in Edinburgh and stuff like that, you know, it's just like that actually. It smells beautiful. I don't know what that spice is. It's almost like a little bit like marzipan-y or something like that. I'm not the greatest when it comes to spices and things like that, to be honest with you. I really need to get better at that. I love my curries and my spicy curries and things like that. But you know, different types of spice and things. I should do a little bit of nose training like I did with fruit juices and stuff when I was getting used to the different fruits and things you could get in the beers. But that really is a beautiful aroma. It smells straight up just like Glögg. So yeah, you can definitely smell there is a kind of bready base to this beer. But it's very, you know, it is really quite spicy, and it just smells like you've got mulled. It's almost like you've taken a bit of white bread and dipped it in the mulled wine, and you know, you're just letting it kind of stink out your room essentially. It's kind of like that. There's maybe a teeny little bit of like a biscuity note to this one as well, to be honest with you. I can pick out a little bit of a biscuity quality. I've got this little fruit fly going around as well. Gone. But yeah. It's a beautiful aroma that. Take it seriously with something like this. Take a bit of time and just enjoy the aroma of this beer before you get stuck into it. You know, if any of these breweries are exporting outside of Scandinavia, this would be a really cool beer to give to the world, because I mean, people that are sour enthusiasts would try that and just be like, you know, what is that? You know, that would be a kind of cool export opportunity for all three of the breweries involved here, I think. But yeah, the malt base on this one, and the adjuncts and stuff, I guess you can say, they really, really shine through. For me, on the fruity side of things, the cherries kind of sit in the background a little bit, and it's more the blueberries and the black currants that are giving you a bit more of the juicy kind of side of the aroma here. There's no real hoppiness to this beer. You might detect like a little bit of grassiness or something like that, but to be quite honest with you, the aroma of this beer is one of the harder ones to describe, because it does just smell like Glögg, and if you're not Swedish or Scandinavian, I guess, or you've not tried Glühwein or mulled wine, you know, you're not really going to know what this beer smells like. It just really smells like that, and there's nothing else you can really compare it to. So like I say, a bit of a kind of bready kind of base to it, some sort of spicy kind of notes in there as well. Definitely, I think there's a wee touch of biscuit to this beer too. But then the cherries kind of sit in the background. You've got a little bit of a grassy. It actually becomes a bit more herbal the more you smell of it as well. And then you've got some juicy. You've got some sort of like blueberry and blackcurrant notes in there too. But yeah, it's a lovely smelling beer. That just take a bit of time and appreciate that aroma. You might not know exactly what's going on in it. I'm kind of in that boat, I have to say. But you will really, really quite like this one. If you like Glühwein, mulled wine, or if you're watching in Scandinavia, glögg. I'm not sure if the Danes and Norwegians have a slightly different name for it, but you will really recognise this aroma. It smells pretty much exactly as you would expect from a glögg. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. This one is the Glögg Sour from Morgondagens Bryggeri now in Gothenburg in Sweden, in collaboration with friends company Brewing from Helsingborg and Poppels Bryggeri from Jonsered, just outside of Gothenburg. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål, god jul. Ooh, that's nice actually. I tell you something, the impact that this beer has, it's really quite sharp when you take the first kind of sip of it actually. But it's nice, I like that. It smooths out quite nicely. I have to say, this is probably one of the sharper Berliner Weisses that I've reviewed over the last little while. That really is quite interesting actually. It smooths out, it's quite, the malt base in this is really light. This is dominated by the sour side of the beer. Definitely one of the more kind of puckering ones I've had in recent times. But I like that, yeah. You know, there's quite a few good sour breweries here in Sweden now. I mean, you've Bryggeriet, of course, were the ones who kind of kicked it all off. Dougus Bryggeri are definitely capable of doing sours. You've got, of course, you've got these guys. Morgondagens have been getting a good reputation, but this is my first encounter with them. Who else have you got? You've got Temple Bryghus in Uppsala. You've got Jämerdalen. They're way up in the north. You know, you've got breweries. You've got quite a lot of really good sour breweries here at the moment. Örebro Bryghus are doing some interesting kind of sour beers as well, actually. You know, this is a style in Sweden that it's quite popular, but this is definitely one of the most kind of puckering ones that I've come across from Sweden so far, actually. Yeah, that is really, it's a really nice beer, this one. It's definitely a bit of an acquired taste, so beware if you try this. This is definitely one that you need to give it a little bit of time to evolve and think about. But yeah, let's try and break the flavour down then. So when you take this beer in, it's going to come in really, really sharp. And to be, you know, the other thing as well is you do get a little bit of heat from this one down here, even though it's only 4.5%. And usually Berliner Weisses are quite, you know, these are usually very light alcohol beers. I do get a little bit of alcohol warmth out of this one, so I'm guessing it's probably the spices and stuff that they've added into it. But yeah, after you get that nice kind of smooth, white bready, wheaty sort of thing blanket in the middle of your tongue, and then it becomes a little bit more wheaty and things the further you go into the aftertaste, but the wheat isn't quite as smooth and sweet as you can get from other Berliner Weisses, to be honest. It's quite, it's almost a little bit darker, to be honest with you, and you can feel those sort of spicy notes in the middle of your palate as well. Yeah, it's the cherries, I think, that are dominating the sour side of this beer. I mean, the blueberries and the blackcurrants, I think. You do get a little bit of the juiciness from them the further you go into the aftertaste with the beer, but mainly I think it's the cherries that really dominate the flavour in this one, actually. And this is, come to think of it, this might be one of the first Berliner Weisses that I've had with cherries. And in honesty, if you gave me the choice of blueberries and blackcurrants, or cherries or whatever, you know, cherry would not be my first choice of fruit, actually. It's, I do like them to some degree, but not quite as much as like raspberries and blueberries and stuff like that. But the cherry really does dominate this one. But the malt base, as I say, is quite simple to this. That kind of spicy note, you can feel the kind of smoother, slightly sweeter almost aspects of the wheat are at the back of the palate. Then as you come further forward on the tongue. It's definitely that little bit more spicy. You also get some nice woody kind of notes out of this beer as well. If you go to the front corners of your palate and move in, it's a little bit more kind of woody. Back corners of the palate, there's a little touch of earthiness too. I think there's a little bit of hoppiness in here, but not very much. A little bit of earthiness there. It smooths out as you come further forward. Maybe a teeny bit floral on the front corners of the palate, and then round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and grassy. Quite often with Berliner Weisses, a lot of breweries won't put any hops into them. But I think at the same time, you know, it is quite good practice to put just a little bit of hop into Berliner Weisses, because that's what the Germans always used to do. The Gose and the Berliner Weiss, of course, are two probably. There's probably a few others right enough, like the Lichtenhainer and things like that. But the Gose and the Berliner Weiss are two of the only German beer styles that don't use the Reinheitsgebot, the purity law. So that's an interesting point to make about this as well. But yeah, you can feel that the sides of your palate do dry out a little bit the further you go into the taste with this one as well. And of course, right behind the front curve of the tongue, that's where you've got all that... where you have all of that nice kind of sharpness when you take this beer in. So let's focus on that kind of impact, the sour side of this beer. So when you take this one in, you'll notice that behind the front kind of curve of your palate, it's really, really sharp and quite puckering, and it's the cherries, I think, that give you that. And then the cherry flavour, you'll notice over the time that the beer's on your palate, it sort of darkens out and smoothens out, and as it kind of makes that transition to be a little bit more kind of fruity and juicy, the blueberries and the sort of black curranty notes that come out of this beer, the black curranty blackberries, those are the things that really start to dominate the aftertaste in this one. So like I say, on the edge of the palate, there's a little bit of the earthiness and the floral notes kind of lingering there. Some of the spicy notes and the woodiness is lingering into the aftertaste as well, and then it's the cherries, but the juiciness, the cherries sit at the back of that almost oily bubble in the palate, but then you get a little bit more of the kind of red fruity, the sort of black curranty blackberry flavours out of this actually, which is really very nice. So it's definitely an interesting beer, this one. It's one of the more curious sours that I've come across in recent times, but it's interesting. You know, this is what you want when you've reviewed about 1900s, 2000 beers. You want things that are going to make you think a little bit. And I'm finding that the more I drink of it, the more my mouth kind of adjusts to it and gets used to that really kind of sharp slap in the face that it gives you when you take it in. It's nice, this. You know, for me, when it comes to Berliner Weisses and rating them as to whether they're good, I think it's all about the transition that they make, because you want it to have a little bit of impact, and then you want it to become really nice and smooth, and then a little bit juicier later on as well. It's all about the impact that the beer is going to have. So yeah, you just that's what you want from a Berliner Weiss. Actually, this is a really, really nice take on the style, to be honest, and definitely one of the more unusual ones, I think, that you're going to come across actually. So be aware of that. One of the other things to note about the Berliner Weiss as well is, as I've said in other videos, when it comes to fruitiness and when you actually add fruit into the beer, what it will do is take away some of the green aspects of the you know, take away some of the green side of things on the hoppy side of the beer. So you'll always get a little bit of that wet sort of fruitiness on the edge of your palate too. So I mean, this is a really, really nice take on the Berliner Weiss style, as I've said, one of the more unusual ones that you're going to come across. When you go into the aftertaste of this, cherries linger there, some of the cherry sharpness, some of the juicier blueberries and black currants come out of it, bit of the spice, bit of the wheat, and also a little bit of the kind of floral character too. But overall, a really, really nice take on the style, and definitely one of the more curious ones that I've come across, I have to say. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this review, for the tasting side of things. We'll talk about the mouthfeel. I nearly forgot about that there. So yeah, mouthfeel. Yeah, mid-bodied beer. I would say for a Berliner Weiss, this is one of the thicker ones that I've come across. Carbonation is very smooth. It does have a big sort of oily and thick mouthfeel to it, but it becomes a little bit sharper the further you go into the aftertaste as well. It really, the mouthfeel of this one's quite wet and quite citricy, to be honest with you. It's really nice. The malt base, like I say, quite smooth. A little bit of sweetness comes out later on, but some of the spicy notes are lingering there as well. Good little bit. There is a little touch of hoppy character to this one, but I think you'd be lucky to get more than about 10 IBUs out of this beer, and you've got a really sharp, tart, citricy note to it, but it does get a little bit juicier the further you go into the aftertaste as well. But overall, a really nice, kind of interesting sour beer, this one, and definitely one of the more curious ones you're going to find in Sweden, at least. So yeah, I hope this is one that sticks around and comes out again next year. It'd be cool to get one of these again next year and take it for some of my friends to try. But yeah, I've really enjoyed reviewing this one. But you know, you've got 3 good quality breweries in here. It's not surprising that they've managed to pull off something quite interesting when they're put together. So yeah, thumbs up to Morgondagens for this one. This makes me really curious about some of their other beers. And of course, you know, Friends Brewing Company, or Friends Company Brewing rather, and Poppels Bryggeri. You know, I know that they're capable of doing some very good stuff too. So yeah, always interesting to return to them as well. But let's leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Morgondagens, Friends Company and Poppels. I'm sure I'll return to all 3 of these breweries at various points over the next year or so and beyond that. But thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Make sure you check out my social media. Make sure you check out the Glögg Sour. There's nothing you can really compare this beer to other than Glögg itself, but a really interesting, brilliant advice to this one, and probably the most unusual of this sort of Christmas mini-series that I've been doing for you across 2019. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys very soon. The Glögg Sour from Morgondagens Bryggeri, now in Gothenburg in Sweden, Friends Company Brewing from Helsingborg in Skåne, and Poppels Bryggeri from Jonsered, just outside of Gothenburg. Until the next time, slàinte just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slàinte, skål, cheers.